Okay, this is lecture number 23, and in lecture number 22 we started with the urbanization of India, and we discussed the urbanization patterns and the metropolization of India. Okay, these two things, urbanization and metropolization, we had discussed, and now we will start with the morphology of urban towns in India plus urban sprawl. Then we'll discuss the development of horizontal and the vertical slums, conurbation, and the city planning. Okay, this will be the topic, and let us start with the first topic, that is the morphology of the urban towns. So the first topic is the morphology. So in the morphology, we will study how the urban towns are arranged in India, and this morphology basically depends upon the history. So it is a historical development of a particular site in the urban town as a morphology. Basically, in India, there are three types of morphology generally found in the urban towns. Number one is the bazaar based model, bazaar based cities. So what happens here, the bazaar based city, as the name only suggests, that the cities have grown around the bazaars. So they were this earlier the small bazaars, and these small bazaars, they grew outwards in the similar manner as the Burgese explained, but this is very quite strikingly different from the Burgese model. See, let us first briefly explain, although we will do that Burgese model in the models of the settlement when we'll do that. But in Burgese model of the concentric zonation, what the Burgese says, that the central zone, this is the CBD, Central Business District. Here the all commercial and the retail activities, office, parking space, etc., they are present in the CBD. And this is the transition zone, the zone number 2. This is the transition zone. In the transition zone, the lower income group, they lives, and there is basically the degradation in the housing in the zone 2. So the higher income group and the middle income group, they migrate out of this zone number 2, the transition zone, and the middle income group, they started living in the zone number 3. Okay, after that there is zone number 4, where the open spacious houses are found, that is the zone number 4. The upper income group and the professionals live in the zone number 4, and then comes the zone number 5 here, and the zone number 5 is the commuters zone. Okay, where the city mainly expands and the sprawl happens. Okay, this is the Burgese zonation model. Okay, and what you can see, as per the Burgese, there is clear cut functional differentiation in the CBD zone number 2. Okay, there are clear cut functional differentiation as the activities are moving out of the CBD. However, in the bazaar based cities in India, the cities grow out of the bazaars, right? So there is one difference, is that there is no differentiation as in the no differentiation in of the activities as in the CBD model of the Burgese. So differentiation nahi hai yahan par. Then how does the city expands? Because the CBD model of the Burgese model, this model is based on the centrifugal force. That means the forces that are active, they are outward. Okay, something is pulling out the activities out of the CBD. However, in case of the bazaar based cities, they are based on the centripetal tendencies. That means there is continuously in migration instead of the out migration. So the zone 1 is both. Here you'll find both retail as well as the wholesale activities. Mixed land use will be there, so no land use differentiation. Then the next stream of the migrants, they arrive and they start settling around this zone 1. Okay, this is the zone number 2. So in migration, okay, and the working class people, they are living in the zone number 2. Then the next stream of migrants, they arrive and they live in the zone number 3. Okay, so this is basically the in migrant based model, that is the bazaar based cities in India. So what is the another difference here is that they are completely unplanned. Okay, completely unplanned, narrow meandering roads. However, when you will see the Burgese model of the CBD, for example in Chicago, there is there is no mixed land use separation is there, functional differentiation is there, and proper planning with respect to houses and the road, etc., that is there, and the proper amenity availability is made there. Okay, so amenities are available in the CBD, but here in the bazaar based, there is complete provisioning, lack of provisioning of the basic amenities, whether it is water, electricity, and other services. So this is the first model, that is the bazaar based model. But gradually what will happen in this bazaar based model also, gradually the functional differentiation will start happening, and this bazaar based model will convert into this Burgess based model, okay, when the functional differentiation will happen. Okay, this was the first model, and the second one is the historical cities or the colonial cities. The second one is the historical or colonial city. See, earlier, this, let us say this is the old city, right? This is the old city, right? And in this old city, as I said, there was no differentiation of the land use. There were mixed activities, both retail as well as wholesale activities, light manufacturing factories, all were present here, and the residents were gathering around this old city network, right? So what happened in turn, that this old city became congested, ill planned, hazardous, okay. But as the Britishers arrived, so this was something similar to the bazaar base, but as the Britishers arrived, they created their separate nuclei out of this old city. Let us say they created their own separate nuclei, I1. This is IDES. This is the new city or the new CBD, what we can say, new CBD. Okay, this is created by the Britishers, and around this new city started formation of the started incoming arrival of the new migrants, okay. And these new migrants basically were the middle income groups, but this stream which was present here, these were the rich or the middle class here, okay. And the people living around the old city here, they have developed slums or the poor cities, poor classes, okay. So this was the differentiation in between two, but it is not that cities kept on growing outward in this direction, in this manner, and there was the sectoral development simultaneously happening along the main roads or the railway networks, okay. So that was also happening, and the zone 4 and the zone 3 also developed along the road and the rail networks. So this was the historical or the colonial city model, right? For example, when you see in the example, the this old new CBD can be the Connaught Place, okay, and this old city example can be the, say, Chandni Chowk, okay. So in this manner the historical or the colonial cities grew, okay. Then the third model of the cities this is present in India, the third model is the planned city. And in the planned city, the example can be given of the, for example, Chandigarh, okay. These new cities are based on the grid pattern, okay, grid pattern in this manner. And the new multiple nuclei were formed are in these, and these were the separate sectors basically, okay. And these were the arterial roads, okay, sectoral roads. So the planned cities were based on the multiple nuclei model, okay. So these were the three types of the cities in India: colonial cities, planned cities, and the bazaar based cities. Moving on to the next topic, that is the urban sprawl. See, urban sprawl, as the city expands outwards, it generally expands in the rural areas, surrounding rural areas and the field areas. But this expansion is completely unplanned, right? And because of this unplanned expansion, the sprawl gets created, no which encroaches upon the rural land. Now this sprawl does not happen randomly. In many times this, what is seen, that for example this is the main city, and this is the road network around the city. So the cities start expanding toward this road network, right? Or let us say this is the uh, rail network, okay. and the city starts expanding towards this rail or the metro railway line. So in the urban sprawl, the main features what are seen is that the one is the unplanned nature of houses. Okay, large mansions, okay, are built complete open spaces, lack of planning, and functional differentiation although is there functional differentiation, but that proves harmful in many cases. For example, the commercial activities and housing or residential, they are completely separated. For example, if the expansion is happening along a road along a road, then in one part of the land there is the expansion of the housing, the residential housing, but in very far away land there is some no commercial complex there. So the distance between them is large and the daily commutation becomes a big problem. Okay, so this is another feature. The another feature of the urban sprawl is that the urban sprawl see the large inequalities because urban sprawl are happening in the rural localities, in the rural areas, and in the rural areas the lifestyle of the people is very different. But when the upper class migrates along the sprawl in the rural areas, then the stark inequality is created, and this create a further sense of the depression and the anxiety among the rural communities. So these are the number of features of the urban sprawl, but the sprawl are of basically three types. Okay, when you see the sprawls, they are either the low density sprawl. So types of sprawl, types of urban sprawl. Number one is the low density sprawl. Low density sprawl, for example, let us say this was the main city. Low density sprawl happen around this main city in all the direction. This is low density sprawl. However, the ribbon sprawl, happen along the main carriageways. For example, this is the main city, this is the road network. Okay, along this road network the sprawl is happening here. All along the road network this sprawl is happening here. Okay, this is the ribbon sprawl. And the next is the leapfrog sprawl. Leapfrog sprawl is basically happening again along the main carriageway, but here multiple nuclei are developing. In this manner multiple nuclei are developing, and here somewhere the commercial buildings, commercial complexes, somewhere the residential complexes are forming, and this is basically motivated by the real estate sector. Okay, and this type of sprawl is happening along the NH44. For example, outside this is the Delhi. Okay, this is NH44 which is going towards the Chandigarh, and the leapfrog sprawl because of the real estate developer is happening along the NH44. Now this sprawl in many times become a reason for the slum development, for the slum development, which is our next topic. So first of all, what are the factors which led to the development of the slums? So you have to study the factors which lead to the development of slum in again the two types. One is the pull factors. There are the pull factors which are operating in the cities, and there are the push factors which are operating in the rural landscape or the rural areas. Push factors mainly is the agrarian distress, which is forcing the people to migrate out of the rural areas. Then again the discrimination that may be prevalent on the basis of caste, religion or other factors. Okay, again the low income. Okay, so number of push factors can be written which operate in the rural areas, which force people to migrate towards the cities. But when they arrive in the cities, okay, by thinking that there are the opportunities for the jobs available, but that is just a perceived opportunity, because in reality there are no jobs. Okay, so the number one factors become the lack of opportunities in the urban areas. So because of the lack of opportunity, they do not have the income to survive, and they settle in the some slum communities, or again the expansion of the slums happens because of this. Okay, but lack of opportunities, then not able to provide the necessary income and the infrastructure. Basically, the cities are not able to provide the necessary infrastructure, okay, necessary services to the people who are arriving in the cities. Okay, then again the rentals in the cities, rentals in cities, they are not so cheap to accommodate, so that the people can accommodate in the well established colonies. So what the people do, because of the high rentals, they start living in the slums. And all knows the problem of living in the slum, whether it is the cramped living, poor air quality, crimes, health issues, garbage, okay, and the many diseases that generate in the slums. So these are the main problems. Now slums, for example, slums in the Delhi, most of the slums in the Delhi are horizontal slums, they expand horizontally. Okay, however, slums in Mumbai, when you see slums in Mumbai are the vertical, because of the lack of availability of the land. So what happens, the slums expand vertically, but it is not that just the people who live in the those areas, they are responsible for the vertical slum. The main reason for development of vertical slums in Mumbai are the private developers. Now what happens, government launched a scheme in 1995, and the scheme was the slum rehabilitation scheme. Now under this scheme, the responsibility for the rehabilitation of slum was given to the private developer, but the private developer sensed the opportunity in this slum development scheme also. What they did, they used the land ownership based models. Sorry, the model name is the land sharing model. Land sharing model. And in this model, what they did, they used the cross subsidization. The 75% on the 75% land, they developed the units which were sold in the market at the market rate. However, on the remaining 25%, they cross subsidized. And now see, you can see that those people who were earlier living on 100% land, they were squeezed in the 25% of the land. And in the name of the vertical development, what private developers did, that they squeezed the people in this 25% land, and they earned the profit from this 75% of the land and the slum development, the development, and they sold these buildings in the market. And this became the main reason for the vertical growth of the slums in the Mumbai. And now this problem of the vertical slums is very dangerous. Number one is that in the urban slums, in the particularly the vertical slums, there is completely cramped living, no fresh air to breathe, thermal discomfort, because the buildings are very high. The height of the building is very high, and the noise problem is again very high. The ventilation problem is there. Lack of community engagement is there. And once the vertical slums developed in Mumbai, the adjacent land which was open, that was treated as the garbage dump yard. And this again led to the number of problems in the Mumbai slums. Okay, so this is how the slums in the India, vertical and the horizontal, in many areas grew. But when you see the, say, the uh, special distribution of the slums in India, in almost all the major cities, slums have developed, and this has become a big problem to tackle. So for example, if you see in Delhi, you have the Dharavi slum. Okay, in Bangalore you have Rajendra Nagar slum. In Hyderabad, again, सॉरी धरावी, ये क्या कह दिया यार, नॉट धरावी, भालसवासलम, भालसवासलम, धरावी slum is in Mumbai. Dharavi slum is in Mumbai. Okay, in Bangalore, Rajendra Nagar slum. कुछ एक slum के नाम याद रख लें, that we can again make in the a special distinction in the map. This is Hyderabad, and Indrama slum, Indrama slum here. Okay, and Basanti slum in Kolkata. This is Kolkata and Basanti slum here. In almost all the major cities, even in Lucknow, Kanpur, big slums have developed there also. So this is how the slums have developed in India. Moving on to the next topic, that is the conurbations. See, conurbation is the continuous urbanization. It is continuous urbanization. Now, continuous urbanization may happen along one city. For example, let us say this is one city, and this is the main road, which is moving out of the city. Now, the development started along this road. This is the uni-nuclear conurbation. Okay. Now, if the conurbation develops between the two major cities, that is the binuclear conurbation. This is the binuclear conurbation. If the conurbation develops between the three cities, okay, here in this manner, if the conurbation develops here in between the three cities, this is called the multinuclear conurbation. Okay. For example, in Delhi and NCR, one can be said Delhi, another Gurgaon, another is the Faridabad. Multinuclear conurbation, right? Gandhinagar in the binuclear conurbation, let's say this is Gandhinagar, this is Ahmedabad. Binuclear conurbation is developing here. Okay. So in this manner, the conurbations develop, and they are the areas of the continuous urbanization. Okay. But in India, only two major conurbations, which are the potential conurbation, which are developing here. Okay. So which are the two conurbations in India which are developing? Number one is in the Delhi, from Agra up to the one on one side to the Saharanpur, on the another side till the Amritsar, right? Another potential conurbation is the Howrah on the Hooghly River. So the two main potential conurbations are evolving in India. One is the along this is the Hooghly River. Okay. This is Hooghly River, right? So along the Hooghly River, for example, here you have the Bansaberia, right? Here you have Titagad. Okay. Here you have the Bhadreshwar. Okay. Here you have Howrah. Okay. You have Kolkata, and here you have Birla Nagar. Okay. So along this Hooghly River, again a conurbation is developed. This is Kolkata Hooghly conurbation, and the northwest conurbation is developing along the National Highway 44. This is the Delhi here. Okay. And one division is towards the Dehradun. Okay. This is Agra. This is Meerut. Right. Here you have Delhi. Here you have Panipat. Right. This is Ambala. Right. Here you have Saharanpur. And here you have Dehradun. Right. This is Jalandhar. And this is Amritsar. So these are the area of continuous urbanization, and these are the two potential conurbations in India. The largest conurbation is in the Japan, and along the western coast of the USA also that conurbation is called the Boswas conurbation. Number of conurbations have developed actually in world. For example, in this is the if this is the America. Okay, this is the America. The one conurbation has developed here on the east coast. This is called the Boswas conurbation. Okay. And another conurbation has developed on the west coast also, west coast conurbation. Okay. So number of conurbations have developed in the world basically. But it is not that these conurbations come without problem. There are the number of problems associated with the conurbations also, development of conurbations. So problems with conurbations. The number one problem is the administrative problem. Now, what is administrative problems? In administrative problem, the big problem is the conflicting jurisdiction. Basically, the urban centers are expanding towards the rural areas, and the urban cities, they are governed by the different municipal bodies. However, the rural bodies, the rural landscape, this is governed by the different governing administrative body. So because of that, the conflict of jurisdiction arises. The next problem is the archaic laws. Laws Most of the laws which govern the urban administration, urban governance in India, are still the British origin laws. This create a problem for the proper governance of the urban cities and the conurbation, right? And the next problem is the lack of financing, lack of funds with the urban bodies. This is the main problem in India with urban body governance, because the most of the urban bodies in India, their own revenue is very less, almost nil. So they depend on the fund from the vertical fund flow from the state of the center. This again creates a number of problems for the city's governance. This is the administrative problem. The second one is the social problem. Now, see, when the city expands toward the rural areas, the again, as I said, the rural landscape and the people living in the rural area, they are completely different. Their occupation structure is different, and their culture and the living style is different. So, when the people who are living in the city, they migrate outwards, there leads to creation of, sorry, not equality, inequalities, inequalities, and these inequalities are, you can see these inequalities in the form of gated communities. And these inequality and gated communities, this create a sense of exclusion, a sense of exclusion, and this sense of exclusion became the main reason for the crimes. So this is another problem, that is the social problem which is there in the rural areas. And the another problem that can be said is the planning problem. See, the cities, they are, most of the cities which are expanding along the carriageways, they are expanding in unplanned manner, in haphazardous way, and this is creating a very unique kind of sprawl which is completely unplanned. And this sprawl, for example, is a leapfrog sprawl in case of the expansion out of the Delhi leapfrog. Now, these sprawls create the problem of the planning, and these planning problems can be seen in the form of the lack of basic amenities, and which can be again categorized as a next heading, that is the provisioning services, provision of basic services, whether it is the water, whether it is the electricity, whether it is the health, education. These all basic amenities, the basic services, are almost absent in these conurbations, creating a huge problem, right? So these are the conurbation and the potential problems associated with the conurbations. Okay, and moving on to the next thing, that is the how, what we can do for the urban planning. Basically, urban planning, see, urban planning, why urban planning is needed? Because there are some problems associated with the urbanization, whether number of problems are associated, as I said, whether they are the development of large slums, okay, whether it is the strong metropolization which is happening, okay, because of absence of intervening opportunities, people are migrating toward the big centers, whether it is the archaic laws, okay, pollution problem, a big problem for the Indian cities, pollution problem, okay, crimes, okay, unemployment, you name the problem, it is present in the urban centers, okay, population problem. So all these problems are associated with the urban centers. So for tackling these problems, the proper urban planning is needed. Now, urban planning can be done in the two ways. Basically, city, number one is the city as an area, and the second way is the city in an area. These two are the totally different concept. City as an area planning means this is the city. Okay, this is the main city. Now you have selected a very large area. For example, Delhi, you have selected a large area, the entire western UP, Haryana, Punjab, okay, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Rajasthan, northern Madhya Pradesh. You have selected a very big area, and what you start doing in the city as an area, you start developing the secondary cities around the big city. Okay, in this is the shadow of the big city, right? This is the shadow of Delhi, and in the shadow of Delhi, what you start developing these secondary cities. Okay, what is called as the satellite towns, so that when the people migrate from the rural areas, they do not directly migrate towards this big city. They first migrate toward this city and then again migrate toward the big cities. Okay, so the migration streams, you are intervening the big migration streams toward the big city in a manner of developing the satellite towns. And this type of development we are trying to develop through this scheme, Amrut scheme. Okay. Plus providing the urban amenity in the rural areas, Pura scheme. So these type of schemes, they cater to this problem, that is you develop city as an area. You do not force the people to directly migrate to the big cities or the big centers. Okay, and then in the city, in an area, what you do, you have a city which has outgrown its number. For example, in Delhi, you develop that city in a manner, for example, you can adopt a model of the compact cities. This is the model of the European cities. For example, this is the limited area of Delhi. Okay, you have selected certain pockets, and with proper planning you have started vertical and the compact planning in these areas. Now while doing this vertical and the compact planning in these areas, you have left with yourself a large space. Okay, in this large space, the number of other facilities, whether it is the greenery development, park development, proper facilities for the urban services, for example the transportation, okay, the water services, that can be made in this blank space. So this can be the one method, that is the compact city method for the city in an area. The other method is that which India currently doing is the smart cities. Okay, now in this what we are doing, you have a city, right? What you do, the services which you provide to the people in those smart cities, you make them available to the people through smallest cost in the minimum time available at the reasonable cost. So these smart cities are based on the principle of the basically ICT model. Okay, and the a special purpose vehicle is executing this model, this project, smart cities project. Okay, along with this you provide the mass rapid transit services. Okay, proper service delivery, digitization of the municipal services, all this is being done in the smart city model. Okay, so the city's development can be done in the two ways, as I said, the city as an area and the city in an area. And both, you cannot do one thing at a time. Both city in an area and city as an area need the simultaneous development to tackle the problem of urbanization in India, right? So this was the last of this class, and we have discussed the entire urbanization, complete urbanization. And from the next class we will start with the cultural geography, in which we will discuss about the tribes, problems of the tribes, the language, linguistic patterns. Okay, all those concepts associated with the cultural geography. So thank you, and please subscribe the channel, and this is the last. So thank you.